folks, as you jump on, or if you're joining us later. We'll be here for just a few minutes, just chatting, letting some folks jump on with us live. And we're going to talk some about getting this bill. Another one, how a bill becomes a law in the state of Alabama. Just a regular conversation, it would seem, on a standard Monday night now in Gadsden, Alabama. And then I would like to kind of hit on what's going to happen Friday with the hearing and explain some of that. So for those of you that are jumping on with us, please remind us to cover that. But first, we'll start off with Representative Lipscomb from talking about this bill. But guys, we'll give you a few more minutes. I see about 20 of you jumping in. Of course, as always, if you've got questions, drop them in the comments, and we will do our best to get some answers. Maybe don't ask, what's your exact strategy to do this? Who exactly are you talking to? Because, we don't want to. Yeah, we don't. So, this is going to be an interesting conversation. I'm looking forward to kind of hearing what's going on in Montgomery. But I guess we'll start off with how's things been since the last time we chatted. Y'all keeping it busy down in Montgomery?
It's like walking through mud. It really is. Which camera are we working with?
That one. It doesn't matter.
Okay. I'll just.
You get.
I'm going to look at Chris.
You have two cameras on you.
Yeah, I don't want people staring at the back of my bald head.
Yeah.
This has been a pretty weird session because we've had COVID protocols in place. So, what's happening is the House or the State House is essentially on lockdown. And we've got troopers at the doors, which is kind of unusual. You would think that's normal, but it's not. We've got troopers at all the doors. You've got to be President of the United States or a member of the body to get in. And we've even gone so far as to socially distance the House. Now, keep in mind, there's 105 of us socially distant. So what we have to do is we've split the body up on the House floor, every other desk, and then the spillover is going into the gallery where the people would typically sit and into some adjacent rooms. And it is a painful way to do business because we're accustomed to being able to move around the chambers and work a bill. And the Senate is still able to do that. They've got plenty of room.
Right.
Plenty of room because, 30-some-odd members, they're just maneuvering about a pretty large space. But in that same space, we're usually having 105 people, and now we're all segregated from one another, and we can't get a whole lot done. Now, we've been, learning how to kind of maneuver around this process, but it's difficult. It's painful.
Well, I will save the joke from the comment section, but 105 politicians crammed in a room, they can't get a lot done. Some might argue in today's world that's not exactly out of character. But we appreciate the fight you guys are fighting for us for sure. And Christie, what you been up to?
Just working at it, fighting the rendering plant from the multiple fronts, this being one of the primary ones that we're spending a lot of time on. Last week was really busy, with the Senate and Andrew Jones, going through what he did in order to hand it off to you guys. And we've got the legal front, and Advanced Etowah is coming together nicely and organizing into the different groups. You really see those people taking over, and that's been nice to see.
And guys, you can if you still are interested, for sure, you can jump on advancedetowah.com and sign up for one of the groups to jump into, whatever is you're interested in, or if you just not sure what you want to do but just want to plug in, then jump in there and we will find a place for you to go. So while we give a few more minutes for some folks to jump in, again, guys, hit that share button and let's get a few more folks on. But if you've got questions, we'll take those. So, explain kind of what Senator Jones did last week. That sounds kind of interesting. I've heard a few different stories of, wow, I've been around these parts for 30 or 50 years and never seen anything like this. So while we wait for some folks to jump on, you mind explaining, either one of you, whoever wants to explain what
I'll let Craig get into
what
the
Andrew
weeds on that
did.
one. He knows more about it than I do.
Sure. Well, Senator Jones found himself in the midst of some complexities, to say the least. I'm doing my best not to speak for him because I don't know all of the intricacies of what took place, but as I understand, as it relates specifically to Senate Bill 131, he brought the bill up, and we will discuss this at a later point, what a BIR is again. But in his attempt to get the BIR, my understanding is that he passed it, and he got the percentage of the votes that he needed to proceed to the actual bill as a question. And when that question was presented, they cast a vote, and he was not able to get the votes necessary to pass. Subsequently, he was able to enact a parliamentary procedure which allowed him to petition the chair to bring the bill back up at his call, which happened shortly thereafter, and my understanding is it passed that time. There was a lot of intricacies involved with it, and I believe he had to do a Mr. Smith Goes to Washington for some time, but needless to say, it sounds like it was interesting. I wish I could have been there. It sounded like it was good. What was funny is, for some reason, we were on the House floor. Actually, I was up in the gallery, but all of a sudden I saw senators piling onto the House floor, and I thought, what in the world is going on here? Why are these senators here? I know they're in session right now. Come to find out, they were tired of listening to Andrew speak. So they were taking a break. They were going to go back up and finish the debate later. It was interesting to see what happened there, but I was proud of them to get that through. So it looks like the ball's in our court at this point.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it was. I think it surprised. Again, I don't want to put words in his mouth. I think it surprised him how much he had to fight in order to make that happen. And I think he thought that it was going to be a challenge, but I think it ended up being even more than he thought, with sort of the opponents that normally don't get involved in the local laws, did get involved here. But he said he was going to do whatever it took, and he did whatever it took. So so that was a great thing. And I had been following the bill, early on, and when it, I think it had gotten the BIR. And he had sent me a text, and I sent him a text real quick, and then he didn't text back the rest of the day,
Right.
And I was like, "Where's Senator Jones?"
Right.
He was filibustering on the Senate floor, kind of can't text, when you're doing that. No. So he was out for the rest of the day fighting the fight. So.
Although I did see a bill on the House floor the other day where the sponsor was tired of being filibustered against, and he just began texting the whole time. And so, texting has its place, but not when you're the filibusterer.
That's right. So I could just picture him standing up reading the Alabama Code in front of the Senate in order to keep on going. So it was good, but
or it could have been the actual dialogue from Mr. Smith.
It could have. So what happens next? Where do we go now? Oh, sorry.
So first, BIR. What's BIR?
Okay, so a BIR is a budget isolation resolution. And I don't recall when this came into place. I think it might have been Bob James. Gosh, I'm not good on that on that exactly. But essentially what it does is, as most people may or may not know, the Senate and House have one primary responsibility, and that is to pass a budget. Beyond that, We have no other constitutional responsibility. But the problem is that it takes a long time to get a budget put together. And we have two budgets. We're one of very few states who have two budgets. Most every other state in the union has one giant budget for which they can do things a little more, I think, a little more effectively than what we can. But point being is that it takes some time, and usually we don't see those budgets get voted on until pretty late in the session. But we cannot pass a bill until the budget is passed. However, this budget isolation resolution was enacted and put into place so that we could, in fact, pass a bill before the budgets are passed, and then it's enacted thereafter. So it is just a constitutional mandate to make that happen. You'll find that the BIRs disappear once the budgets are passed.
Okay.
So it does make things a little easier thereafter, but that's pretty late in the session, and you don't want to wait that long to try to get your bill on the floor because there's no guarantee. But that's essentially what a budget isolation resolution is, and in order for it to pass, you cannot simply have a majority of either house to vote yes for it. You have to have a 60% majority to vote. And so it can be a little complex. And just this week, I've seen a couple of BIRs fail.
Okay. So let's back up real quick and for those that may be new to joining and catching up with all that is going on with this rendering plant and why we're sitting here today talking about this. So Senate Bill 131, what's the quick 30-second version of what we're trying to get passed here?
I don't think there's a quick 30-second version. Do you want to know what the bill is about? Does everybody know what the bill is about?
I'm sure the majority do, but just in case somebody's watching this, that we need a little context on why we care here in Elwha County about this bill.
Okay. So the interesting thing about this bill is as an architect, sometimes all the time I put specifications with my construction documents when I'm designing a building. And sometimes those specifications say exactly what I want. Like I want exactly this kind of carpet. But a performance specification says, I want a carpet, but I just want it to meet these requirements. I'm not telling you what carpet to get or what color. It just needs to meet these certain criteria, and I'll be happy with it. And that's essentially what Senator Jones's bill is. It's a performance-based bill, which inherently states that any industry that wants to come in and do a rendering plant has certain criteria that they must abide by in order to be present here. Obviously, it was structured in such a fashion as to mitigate the issue that we're dealing with at the moment, but also to, in the future, keep us from having bad actors show up in our county. We just want the best of the best. We're not saying you can't come here. We're not saying that there's anybody that we don't want. We just want people who are good players in their respective fields. And so that's what this bill is about. Now, where do we go from here, I guess, is probably the next logical question.
Yep.
Okay. So this bill has passed the Senate, and it has been sent to the House Committee on Local Legislation. I'm on that committee. The interesting thing about a local legislation committee is that provided that all the members of the delegation are agreeable to it and there's no unusual hiccups, it's usually going to breeze right on through there. And I very much expect that to happen this time. The problem is that because Senate rules and House rules are very different. And everything that we do either on the Senate or on the House floor or in committee is structured around these rules, and if it doesn't apply to these rules, then we defer to Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedures. It's a book about that thick. It's good bedtime reading. So what we would do at this point is refer to the House rules, which clearly state that if you have a local bill which has some kind of environmental impact, it has to go to a second committee. one of the 5 major standing committees, and I very much expect that it's probably going to go to the County and Municipal Government Committee, something to that effect. That is where my House Bill 316, the Friendly Neighbor Act, is currently dying. Okay? There's not much I can do about that. It is, you rely upon the chairman to pull it up at their discretion, and there's no amount of strong-arming or petitioning or bribing or sending fruit baskets or whatever that's going to make that happen. They're going to do what they think is in the best interest of their committee members and of the body at large, whether their opinion is valid or not. And that is, of course, the prerogative of that chairman to do so. I've spoken with them, and it just is what it is at the moment. I'll continue to petition to get that bill pushed through. I'm afraid that once we get the Senate bill through local legislation and it gets into this second committee, that we are going to find ourselves in a position where it is getting placed at the bottom of a big stack of documents, gathering dust, file 13, whatever the case may be. And that is when we're going to have to perhaps take some extreme measures to petition people to respect our local wishes, because that's what this is. This is a local bill. This does not affect the whole state, and I think I can make. And that is the primary difference between his bill and my bill. My bill was a statewide bill, so I get it. I understand why there was some concerns, but this is a local bill. The Senate bill is, and so I feel as if we can impress upon their conscience to let us have at least our opportunity for it to pass or fail. But for us to not get that opportunity is a disservice to us. It's an injustice to us, and at some point retaliation may be necessary. And you don't want that to happen. Things get ugly when people start messing with local legislation. And so I don't want to be that bad guy, but I'm willing to be that bad guy. That's literally my job, is to protect my people. I represent 45,000 people, and they're looking at me right now to make something happen. If it means I've got to start, kicking and stomping and fussing and cussing, that's what I'm going to have to do.
Is it typical when a local bill gets diverted into one of these committees because it's a local bill, for it to generally move through that committee onto the BIR into a ultimate vote because it's a local bill?
Okay.
That's not anything abnormal that you would expect. That
Right.
your bill that's sitting there not getting passed is a statewide bill. So
Right.
Most local bills kind of pass through the committee process and move on to the next step, generally without too much of a fight. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, and I've reviewed the rules, and I can't get clarity on exactly what is happening here because this is a bit of an abnormality. Local bills very clearly go directly from passage in the local legislation committee to the next calendar.
Right.
They're automatically put on there. Most normal bills that are not a local bill require you to go before the Rules Committee and petition one of those rule members to put you on the calendar in order for you to be on the floor for a vote. What I do not know is if this bill, having gone through each of those committees, whether it falls under the guidelines of the local or if it falls under the guidelines of the standing committee as it relates to getting on the calendar.
So the hope is that it would go through local and then get on the calendar, but there's a chance it could go local, then a standing committee, and then go on the calendar.
I think there's about a 90% chance.
Okay.
Because I've looked at the rules, and I've already been told by, I won't mention any names, but I've been told by leadership that it will be going to a second committee without question. Don't know which one that is yet.
Let me ask, do you feel like it's going to go to the standing committee because it's probably due to go to a standing committee, or do you think that politics or that special interest or that pressure is behind it going to that standing committee?
I have no doubt that there's some pressure and some politics at play here, but as I read the rules, this is kind of a stereotypical bill to be placed in that second committee. It really truly does apply. Doesn't mean I like it,
Right.
but it is what it is.
Right.
That's the rules, and that's what we have to play by. if we do happen to get it through committees, and let's just say I have to petition people on the rules committee to get on the floor, I don't feel that that's going to be an impossibility, but it is still yet the second of 3 big hills we have to climb once it's in the House. The House it's cumbersome. It really is. Passing laws is not intended to be you
Right.
know.
And we would hope that it's not.
Yeah.
We don't want to just keep adding and adding and adding.
Right. It was structured from our forefathers, both federally down to our various state versions of the Constitution, that passing law should be a cumbersome and difficult thing to occur. And it frustrates everybody, but it's for a good reason. And so we're going to find ourselves getting frustrated as we try to climb each of these respective hills. And so we're going to be petitioning the Rules Committee, should that be the case, to get us on the floor onto a calendar. And when that happens, that's when we're going to be facing the budget isolation resolution and then the bill itself inevitably. Mm-hmm. I feel very confident, very, very confident that if we get past the BIR,
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah.
No problem.
Right. I
No
understand.
problem.
Okay. So
99% certainty. Getting past the BIR, 70%, 60%, something like that.
okay.
A lot of that's going to hinge on my ability to put my hands on 105 people. I've got to physically touch 105 people
With social distancing, of course.
with a baseball bat and get them to commit to doing what I need them to do.
So what can we do as citizens in Etowah County to help you in any way?
It's a good question, and I'm going to be very direct in this answer. You can do absolutely nothing, and I'm asking you to do absolutely nothing. It's important because we have strategy at play here. And what we don't want is people overturning the apple cart at this point. Now, there's going to be a time and place where we're going to ring the phones, we're going to hit the emails, and we're going to tell people to bring the thunder.
Okay.
And when it's time to bring the thunder, we're going to bring the thunder. But don't be premature in that. We don't need any people out there being wild cards or doing anything crazy. Just let us do our job and understand that we have a game plan in place.
So we should cancel the 3 charter buses that we reserved
Yes.
to.
Now,
Okay.
that's not to say that those 3 charter buses should not be happening. They just need to happen when I tell them to
delay
happen.
that. We'll delay
So
that.
you'll convey that, and we'll be able to communicate to this group and let them know sort of
That's
now's that time.
That's
that,
right.
That the Representative
right.
Lipscomb was talking about. Okay.
That's right. It's a cumbersome chess match that we're having to be very strategic about. We cannot treat people in Montgomery the same way that we treat people locally. They do not have a vested interest in our community. They're not our friends. They're not our neighbors. They don't go to church with us. They don't care about us.
They don't go out to eat on Broad Street. Yeah.
So it's very important that we be delicate in the way that we handle things, so that we don't irritate them. There will be a time and place we may have to irritate them, but we reserve that at my call, and we'll act accordingly when need be.
Okay. Well, so we do have a question here from Facebook that I think is appropriate right now. Is the entire local delegation supporting this bill?
It's my understanding that they are, yes.
Okay. Do we need to do anything there to communicate to all of you guys? Does that help in any way? Emails, any of that kind of stuff? Okay.
No.
We've kind of jumped up and down and screamed and yelled enough.
This group has done such a good job of playing their part up until this point, but I need everyone to understand that we're playing a different game now.
Okay.
And it's one in which patience is a virtue. And, and so
I think I know someone right off the top of my brain that is not all that awesome about patience. But,
David. Oh.
sorry, Chadwicks. All
We love
right.
you, David.
Well,
we love you, Julie.
you may need to buy them a tasty beverage at some point.
Sure.
But all right. Well, hey, that's good to know. So guys, heed that. Certainly there's a certain level of trust that the folks around here have elected you guys, and we've got to have some trust. I know, again, to save time in the comments, I know some will feel that trust is something that's hard to come by these days with what we seem to have experienced through this whole process. So
I think the group needs to understand, though, that there's leaders such as yourself that are comfortable with accountability and transparency and being that servant leader, and that have no problem with that, and in fact expect that. It's all about strategy right now, about making sure that we're making it as possible for you to succeed as we can. And so where there's a certain, and I'm sure you'll be like Andrew Jones, and when you can, come on and update and say, okay, here's what I can tell you, here's what we've got going on. But that, as this, at some point when this is all, all behind us, is when you'll have the opportunity to say, okay, guys, here's what happened, here's how we got here. And so, but yeah, you got to be, there's others watching this opposition other than those that oppose the rendering plants. So.
It's so very important that people understand that any one person saying or doing the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time can ruin the whole thing. One person puts a little too much salt in the stew, and all of a sudden you got to throw it away. So we just need people to be team players and let the quarterback take control. I'm not necessarily saying I'm the quarterback. I'm just saying let those of us who are strategizing and those of us who are putting together a game plan try to enact that game plan. And then there's going to be a time where we're going to ring that bell, and it's time to rain down hellfire and brimstone.
Well, Reba Stanley said I was sure it was me. Miss Email everybody. So yeah, Reba, I think throttle down.
It's had its time and place.
So,
and that's not to say
now,
there might not be a time and place, just
exactly.
not right now.
Yep.
Yep. I got you.
All right. Well, let me look through here. So somebody did comment that if the entire delegation is not fully supporting, it will not have a chance. Is that correct? It's got to be all three of you?
Well, no, not necessarily.
Okay.
There's many times where you have a piece of local legislation that comes in that, for one reason or another, you have to understand that politics come into play in a delegation, because obviously not everybody represents the same people. And so sometimes, and I've encountered this, sometimes you may even have a conflict of interest on a particular bill, and you have to decline from signing that piece of local legislation. It does not mean that it's dead. The only time it's dead is when you oppose it and you say, no, I am against that bill. At that point, you've got an issue. Just because you don't get the entire delegation to sign off on it does not mean that it's a dead bill. But I do fully expect, though, that you'll see this delegation on board.
Do you think all members of our delegation will sign the bill out?
I think they will. I hate to speak for anyone because I don't know what their circumstances are. Like I said,
because they actually sign it out. I mean,
yes. You have to put your name on there.
Yeah.
But we all represent different people, and different people have different interests at hand, and so there may be a very logical reason somebody may not sign on it. Again, I've had to decline a couple of local bills that I could not sign because of one reason or another. I didn't oppose the bills. I let them go through. But that's just how it works.
I understand. I think that the concern that I have and that others may have, and I know where you stand on it, is, and the answer may be, we've already heard the answer. The answer is yes. But from what I've witnessed, I'm not there, you are, but from what Andrew Jones has had to deal with, is that the members of the House are going to have to not just, support it. We need them to fight for that in the strategic way.
Sure.
And I know you are, and I'm not saying the others aren't either.
Right.
But to the extent that is something that gets the job done, it's logical that if all the members not only support it but advocate for it and are proactive, and I'm not saying they're not. There may be strategies I don't know about,
Right.
but that's what I hope to see, is that all three of you work together, putting, prior politics or disputes or whatever, issues aside, which may be in place, because this is the right thing. This is what the county, this will, not only is it the right thing for the outcome, but it is a way to end a battle that is, the longer it goes on, there are detrimental aspects to it the longer. Talk to the real estate agents in town.
Right.
Talk to the people trying to recruit industry to come into town. I hear stories every week about how this rendering plant talk is causing damage, that the sooner we can resolve this, it's great
Sure.
for a lot of reasons. And so having all the members, whether or not they have concerns about, I've heard concerns about, well, the bill, wasn't written, should have been written with this language or that language. The point is that it sends a message loud and clear about what the leaders in Etowah County will accept and what they won't.
Right.
And the quicker that message is sent, received, and moved on, the better for our whole county, everyone. So I just really hope that we see that, not just supporting it, but advocating and fighting as a group, because it's going to benefit, no matter what district, it's going to benefit, in my opinion, everybody. So that's my
I think so,
diatribe.
and I certainly hope that's going to be the case. But I always assume that I'm a lone wolf,
I hear you.
and I have to assume a worst case scenario, because that way I'm not disappointed, And so I'm going to put forth every effort that I have to, with the assumption that it's just me alone here on this hill, and I can pull this off. There's a couple of things that just really have to go our way. There's a couple of things that are just out of our control, and the one that I fear the most is that second committee.
Right.
That is one that I do not have a whole lot of ability to manipulate.
Are either of our other delegation members own that committee?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Now, there's no guarantee it's going to that committee.
Right.
This bill can go to any of the 5 standing committees, the big committees. It can go anywhere from judiciary. It could go to health, although there's no way it's going to health, but it could. It could go to state government. It could go to just whatever the case may be. But I feel reasonably certain it's probably going to county and municipal government, just because that's the logical thing for it to go to.
Okay. Well, do we have anything more to add with the discussion of getting this bill through?
Any idea about timing?
I do not. It should be appearing perhaps next week as a House bill, well, not as a House bill, but as a Senate bill in the House, prepared to be signed off on in local legislation. At that point, we very, very likely could actually make that happen that week, because I think our local legislation committee would be meeting on Thursday, and we were one of only 2 committees that are able to see bills without a substantial notice. So I think I could petition my chairman to let us bring that before us even as early as next week, and go ahead and get it out of there, and get it moving to the next phase.
One thing we have not talked about is the role of the governor in all of this, and what can happen. What are the possibilities with the governor?
Okay. If this bill makes it to the governor's desk, at some point, at least 10 days prior to the end of the session ending, I feel reasonably certain that she will sign off on this bill. That does not mean that we should take that for granted.
Mm-hmm.
She has vetoed local legislation before. I will say this, though. The local legislation last year that I saw her veto, she vetoed for, you know what, I'm just not going to go there. But, so it's not unprecedented. But I feel reasonably confident that she would pass this bill. However, should that bill land on her desk within 10 days of the end of session, the rules state that she has 10 days to sign off on a bill, and if she wants to, she could simply just sit on it and let it die. It's called a pocket veto, and that's just that is a very real possibility, and that's why time is of the essence. But we can only move as fast as we can move.
Gotcha.
We're already halfway through the session. I know it sounds crazy, but we're halfway done, and so it's going to take a lot of hustle at this point.
So when is that 10-day mark? When does that start?
Well, that is very much contingent upon how many days of actual legislative days we get in. I would say at this point we're looking at about 5 weeks, roughly, if we maintain our current path. If we put in some extra days, it could be as few as 4 weeks, perhaps 3.5 weeks.
Okay.
It is very much
whole other month.
We've got
about rendering plants.
We've got I think it's a 150-day bracket within which we have to fit in, our legislative days within that time frame. And if we get done early, we get done early.
Okay.
But if we get to the end, that's it. So, I've not experienced that yet.
Okay.
Would the Senate Bill 246, which is the constitutional amendment, would the committee process be the same for that one, meaning it would go to local and then go to county and state?
I don't think so. I think that's a very different bill. I'd have to take another little peek at it. But now that's also the bill that did not get through the Senate.
Didn't. I'm just curious if it would be a smoother committee process. Now, look, I know Andrew had to, lay down on train tracks to get SB 131 through. So I'm not trying to, but I'm just trying to discuss all options.
The possibility, I would say this, being that it's a constitutional amendment, has its own complexities, more so on the floor than it does really in committee. And so you've got a situation there where it could potentially go to local legislation and get through much smoother, and maybe not have to see that second committee, because I think that bill was structured a bit differently. But once you get on the floor with a constitutional amendment, that's a much more complex matter.
It's harder. I understand.
And I can pretty much guarantee you somebody would vote against it remaining local, which means it would go to a statewide vote. Now, I think very, very possibly we could actually get that statewide vote.
I do too. I think we could get it.
But that's almost like dealing with stuff in the House where you've got 105 people making a decision for you. Then we'd have a whole state making a decision for the county.
Would it be harder to pass it on the floor as a CA?
Probably not. Probably not harder to pass it. I think I have the ability to appeal to my peers to pass the bill. I am not at all concerned about that. My greatest concern on the floor is passing the BIR, because I know people won't vote. They will not vote against me. But there are people who will just simply not press the yes button.
Right.
And so that causes issues. And so, but I'm going to maneuver around that.
Well, guys, who's learned a few things, and who's happy that they're not in your shoes?
And who's thoroughly confused?
Yeah, this is definitely a lot of complex moving parts.
It is.
Which is to be understood.
Something you need to understand is sometimes the most important thing that you can do when you're elected to a public office and you find yourself in Montgomery, one of the most important things you can do is establish friendships and relationships. Because there are people who don't focus on that, and those people are not successful. I've done nothing but focus on that. Now, I've done my regular duty, I've done my business, but something that I have put extreme effort into is creating a core group of people who I can rely on, and I'm relying on them now. And so I just have to get it before them. That's the trick. I just got to get it to the floor.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump in and look at some of the questions and comments. There was a comment that you got 9,000 people chomping at the bit. Just basically let us know when the cavalry is needed.
I love you guys. You're amazing.
It's like holding back a wild pack of dogs.
I love them.
So one, and this is kind of getting away from the bill. This is back to just the bigger issue from a Donnie Minton, which I believe, and it's a super long comment, so I'm not going to bring it up on the screen. I believe from looking at his profile, if I understand it, he looks like he works at the Gadsden Water Department. But just, I mean, it's a point of discussion, and some will take it as adversarial. But kind of talking about the fact that we've kind of highlighted that our community, that our city is not able to handle more industry. And, forgive me, I'm trying to summarize this, but that's kind of the downside of doing all of this has come up. He's for better paying jobs and all that kind of stuff. But, is that a possible negative? From all of this, that's really highlighted the lack of Gadsden's ability, particularly from the water department standpoint in this whole issue.
Well, bear in mind, I don't represent Gadsden.
Right. And this is a more general discussion, not necessarily for you.
And while I'm on that topic, I want to give a big shout out to my constituents in St. Clair County, in northern St. Clair County, those folks in Steele, in Asheville, in Ragland, and parts in between, who have all supported our endeavors here.
They have been amazing.
Good people. Good people.
Yeah. I've appreciate the resolution that the St. Clair County Commission adopted. I think the city of Steele did.
Yep.
I'm not sure if Asheville did or not, but that's a big deal when outside of your county does that. And I actually, in the comments we did to the Senate last week, I sent all of that down to the Senate and pointed out that even our neighboring counties and cities are standing there with us. But going back to what Donnie says, I don't think.
Hold on real quick. Hold that thought. Okay. Hold it, because I do want that. What you just said, he did, and again, I know I didn't read the whole comment that he made, but he did say, what's come out of this is a unity, and a unity in the community, and okay, so let's take that and make something, and I think that's. I would include St. Clair County and a lot of our surrounding counties. This is certainly.
I'm just going to tell you that those people who live in Steele and in Asheville and Ragland, guess where they shop? Right here. This is where a lot of them go to church. It's where they play sports. They may be in St. Clair County, but they're closer geographically to us than they are any major municipality in St. Clair County.
So what were you going to say, Christie?
I was going to point out, I think Donnie makes a great point, and it's something that we've learned, or I know I've learned through this, is that we have water treatment or environmental issues just managing what we have.
And infrastructure.
Just adding more industry. We've learned, hey, we don't have enough enough capacity to even really, grow much more than we already have. And I think that it's not an either or. I don't think we have to pick between industrial growth and jobs or having a clean river and clean air and the infrastructure. We need to have a comprehensive plan where we do, there's an and, we do both of that.
Right.
There's no reason that we can't do that. For so long, we've been posed that question by our leaders, and as everything's an or. Either we're, we have this or that. There's a very divisive sort of a message that we get. And I would submit it doesn't have to be. Why can't we be both? Why can't we be that we can have
everything.
Everything, and that and that it's not either this community gets helped and this community's hurt, or it's good for them and bad for, let's all, have it both. And I think that we're learning a new language, Donnie and all of us, about, we've kind of been conditioned for so long that that's sort of how we think. And I just don't think we're that county anymore.
Well, I think there was a period of time where if you wanted to be successful, you were successful either doing A or doing B. What's different today is that the people who want to move to any given region to be a part of either A or B are requiring that they also offer the other. Mm-hmm. Those people want everything. They expect everything, not just one part or another. Mm-hmm. So any community who says we have to have industry, well, you're not going to get it unless you also offer quality of life, good schools, good churches, decent people. All of that kind of stuff. It's not an either or. It's a whole package these days.
Right. And we are uniquely positioned. I think there's a lot of good news in Etowah County for quality of life, with the nature, with the river, with the mountain, with the people, with the community. But we get so we trip over our own feet with these ideas that we can't be both of those. We have to be. We have to give up this in order to have that. I just don't think we have to do that. And I think that's what the people of this county are coming together to say, we don't have to do that. And we want our children and our grandchildren to think that too, and to have a better place to live. And there's no reason we shouldn't have it.
Right.
So for me, specifically to the water and infrastructure issue, I'm a big fan of the saying of, bad news doesn't get better with time. And I feel like we've been sitting on bad news, and I will, and I have from the beginning, I'll throw myself in the category of I have not been paying enough attention. So I'm not hearing that news. I'm not getting that news. It's not being delivered that, I didn't know that we're having struggles with the water treatment that we have already. It's not good, and it's certainly not something that's helpful to attracting more industry, but that problem still exists, even if we didn't know about it, and we need to get after fixing it. We've addressed through a lot of these conversations, I think a lot more people are aware of, okay, well, we need better training programs. We've had folks like David Chadwick say, one of the main things that's holding my business back and in growing and adding more to our economy here is having qualified, trained people to come and work for me.
Right.
So there's just a long list of those issues that I think now we're having a collective discussion. And so I would say to Donnie, maybe it's a double-edged sword, but I think ultimately, if you look at it from a longer term perspective, if we can figure these things out, and I'll hit the magic words, put a plan together as a community, and that may be, and we got a comment of thanks for shouting out to the neighboring counties, and he said he works in Gadsden. Should he be reaching out to his House representatives? It needs to be, we need to think bigger to have that whole well-rounded environment that we really want, that community that we really want.
I do. So, what we have now is such a substantial group that I think can be expanded upon at some point. and then condensed down into a think tank. Somebody or a group of people who represent different communities and different professions and different ways of life and different demographics. And so we've got this core group that is a very strong representation of our county and the counties around us. And that think tank can be responsible for, creating the advisory strategy to our leadership in the county and saying, this is where we think we should be.
Right.
As a collective. And there's been a lot of brilliant minds involved in this process. And I think that is an endeavor that's really well worth the effort.
Well, and not just, not just to this group, but I guess I would take the advantage or this opportunity to encourage folks. A lot of discussion recently about the various boards around here. We've posted how to go submit applications. Yep. So if that's something you're interested in, and no matter how passionate we are on Facebook or how many protests we show up to, all that kind of stuff, at the end of the day, if we don't get more citizens, more residents around here involved in the processes, then those that say it'll never change are probably right. Yep. And that's going to be, to me, that's one of the things that I'm afraid of, that some of that is going to, like, at some point, guys have got to jump in and put in the work, whether it's on boards or, and obviously we've got a lot of opportunity with Advanced Etowah to jump in. But, hey, maybe it's, it may not be perfect for your life, but if you feel like you could represent the people, maybe you need to jump in and figure out what you want to run for, or get involved in the school board, or, whatever.
There are so many non-for-profits in this area. Oh my goodness. I bet there's 500 seats available. I'm just speculating, but there are so many non-for-profits who need good people to do a community service right now. And so many of them struggle so hard to get funding to do very good things. Just for example, Christie and I are both affiliated with the Kiwanis, okay? And the Kiwanis, their sole focus is taking care of the children of community. And every respective non-for-profit, whether it's United Way or whether it's Kidney Foundation or whatever it is, they have a very specific focus that you may find near or dear to your heart. But the point is that they need good people to put forth that kind of effort for them that we're putting forth towards what we're trying to accomplish here. Right. And I can think of no other group of people than this group of people.
Right.
To get involved with those non-for-profits. They need hard workers. They need doers. They need go-getters. And I would encourage them to go out there and just say, sign me up. I want to be on board.
All right.
Well, and not all issues. And I think that, like, Donnie makes a point. Like, there's complexities to these things. These have been problems that have been around, and he's probably like, where have you guys been? I've been at the water board, and infrastructure's been a problem. Well, yeah, I think that going to your point, people are becoming aware, and shame on me, shame on all of us for not knowing some of these things. But now that we know and we sort of realize how bad it's gotten, where there's this disconnect between us, we can mend that, and we've got to talk about ways that we can do that and work together and say, yeah, I see what you're saying now. But those that are in those positions have to be, want public engagement and input, and not have this sort of, contempt or avoidance for the public coming in and being new and not knowing and saying, explain that to me. How did we get here? How can we come up with a plan? Well, that's hard work. And it's easier just to say, forget it. I'll just, y'all go away, leave us alone, because that's hard work, but it's worth it. And it's really only through community buy-in where everybody, owns it
Yep.
and wants to be a part of it, as challenging as that can be. That's what good government does. And so I'm anxious to see us move on to that point, and what this group will do, and those who run for office and seek to join these 501c3s and on these boards. I'm hopeful that real change will come from that.
I think so too. I think people are becoming more community minded.
Right.
That's a good thing, because for so long it was maybe a self-focus, or maybe perhaps it was just too busy with whatever. Now they're seeing that they can impact so many other things. I hope that perpetuates itself.
Yeah. Well, I've said it before. Like, I can't handle all the national level politics that seems to have consumed our nation right now, and that's a struggle. I don't know how to solve all those problems, but do I want to live a mile from a rendering plant? That's okay. That one, all right. I can tackle that one.
Yeah.
Do I want good schools for my kids? I can tackle that one. Would I like to figure out how to develop a waterfront? For me specifically, I want to encourage people to buy more boats and spend more time on the water. So those are issues that are local, and okay, that I can worry about and that I can get involved in, because it can be very overwhelming when you look at where we are as a country.
You hit the nail on the head. If you want something to improve, you've got to get involved in it. If you're going to be passive and sit back and think that somebody else is going to take care of it, well, then guess what your neighbor's doing? They're thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
So, you want better schools? Well, get in there and start helping your teachers out and volunteering. You want a better waterfront? Well, you start doing what's necessary to help that happen. So many things that you just keep saying, I wish this or I wish that. Well, just do it.
Yeah. Right.
Do it.
And we're seeing with this group, that sort of this community, that we want it not just for ourselves, but we want it for our neighbors too. We don't want our neighbor to, you may live on the mountain and you may not smell this rendering plant, but you don't want your neighbor to have to deal with it. And there's lots of issues that we can all agree on, that not only do we want to improve it for us and our family, but we want to improve it for others as well too. The days of not being something that what benefits everybody helps you.
And I guess maybe me being a guy that didn't grow up around here, I don't even feel like I need to quantify. Like,
where did you grow up?
I grew up in South Carolina.
God love you.
And I've lived all over the country with the Navy, but my wife did grow up here, so I've learned a bit. But it has been interesting to me. I married very well, yes, no telling where I would be without her.
In jail.
But the interesting thing is that this thought, and we've talked about this a lot. I know Jason Wilson has brought this up multiple times about the size of our county, Etowah County. Like, maybe it's me. A region has to work together. So when I say, like, hey, I want better schools, I don't mean for Rainbow City. I don't mean for Southside.
Nope.
I don't mean for Gadsden. Like, to me, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
It's all of us within 10. And the airport's near and dear to my heart. Like, right. It's supposed to be. It's Northeast Alabama Regional Airport. Regional. Yeah. So it's amazing to me that what is developed is that an airport that is solely owned by one municipality in and amongst, like, other counties around us should have some say in some of that kind of stuff. So
imagine, if you will, you're an industry and you're looking to relocate in Alabama, and you're kind of looking broadly across the state. What's a good place for me to put an industry that's going to feed 100, 200 families? There are certain check marks. Right. They always check off. But imagine, if you will, that you've got all of your gold medal schools and all of your high-performing schools highlighted on this state of Alabama, and it just pockmarks. And a lot of them are probably hovering around the Hoover, Homewood areas. But what if you looked on there and you saw all of Etowah County and the surrounding areas, maybe a 50-mile radius, maybe a 30-mile radius, whatever the case may be, but you've got this broad, bright glow on this map where all of those schools are performing. That industry is going to say, hey, what's going on right there? And so it makes a lot of sense for us to endeavor to have everybody succeed. Not just,
no doubt.
not just the school down the street from me, but the school across town from me as well. And so it's something that we need to keep in mind, that success should not be proprietary, and it should not be regional, and we shouldn't be bickering and fighting and having conflict from one territory to another territory like we historically have. The idea here is that we function as a team, and as a community, as a large surrounding community. If we succeed as a whole, then you see great things happening.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to end there. And nobody reminded me, so I had to remind myself. Let's talk about Friday. What we got some fun legal stuff going on.
We
right?
do love fun legal stuff. So the zoning case there's some hearings on Friday at 1:30. Just to refresh everybody, the zoning case is where we have gone into court and are taking the position that the city of Gadsden is not going through its process in order to rezone the property from I-1, which is light industrial, to I-2, which is heavy. They've just made the determination that I-1 is fine, and so our position is that the law doesn't allow you to do that. You have to go through the typical rezoning that we saw in Carnesville, Georgia, that we posted on the opposition page. That's the process, and that the city of Gadsden has skipped that whole process, which is why we're here, because we didn't have the opportunity to have that hearing and to get it voted down early like we saw our Georgia neighbors have been able to just do an amazing job on. So that's what this zoning case is about, is just trying to force the city to follow the same process that everybody does when they do these types of things. So we filed that lawsuit and against the city of Gadsden and the airport authority, and they have filed motions to dismiss, which is routine. Those are preliminary motions that after the complaint is filed, and it sort of tests whether or not there's a cause of action from the get-go. So it's a normal routine motion, which we expected them to file. We've responded back, or we're filing a response back, and the hearing's on Friday at 1:30. It'll be done by Zoom. The hearing will be done by Zoom. So the judge will be, at the courthouse, and then Phil Williams and Josh Sullivan and I will be here in the conference room here doing our Zoom. And then the city's attorney and the airport's authority attorney will be attending via Zoom. So we'll come on after Friday. Michael said he was going to show me how to work his gizmos, and I was going to get Phil and Josh up here to strap the headphones
we'll figure
on.
Out a way.
And,
so I have asked, can it be recorded? And it is procedure, as I understand it, that you can't.
That's right.
That's why basically a court reporter is the only one that's allowed to record.
That's just not here. That's everywhere. You see
media can be. So the Gadsden Times, you may have a reporter there. But of course, they've got to write. They can't physically, record the audio.
So we can't Facebook Live it. We can't record it and put it on and that's just a typical standing order that just about every court has. So we'll do the hearing, and then we'll come up here and sort of update everybody on how it went. We won't get a ruling that day. The ruling would come later. But the idea is, after motions for summary judgment, we believe those motions are due to be denied, and then it will proceed to the discovery phase, which is where there's we depose people. I think we have a deposition notice for Sherman Guyton and for David Hooks and Chad Hare and Harry McClendon and, all of the players that you've seen as it relates to this. So, and then we get to do requests for production and interrogatories and just seek that information that we need in order to proceed with our case.
All right. So lots of as we've talked through this whole process, we've done our best to appeal to our local officials, just talking to them directly. Now we're going to state level actions that are being maneuvered and strategized. Now we've got legal action that is starting. That ball is starting to roll, and of course, if you're at all like me, you kind of sit back and go, "How did we get here? What is going on?" But rest assured, we've got good folks that are fighting, and it's a good fight to fight for. And I think we've seen the community come together and be in fairly violent agreement. So, it is what it is, guys.
Is there any chance we finding an endangered species out there, perhaps?
Well,
because they're everywhere.
There should let me put it this way: there should have been those types of endangered species in environmental reports, which I may be sitting somewhere, and I'm seeking all of that.
Wetland mitigation?
All of that. All of the normal reports that you would see before something like this would get constructed.
In all fairness, thinking long term, that may not be the most awesomest thing. If something like that, we don't want to, the preference would be that we don't end up limiting the development capabilities of the airport.
No, but we've got to protect the three-eyed toad frog. So,
yep. Hey,
well, even if it ultimately can be dealt with, we want to respect the wildlife, but it certainly, would be something that would slow any development down, which is not a bad thing at this point in time.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. And you find ways. Actually, one of the airports in the Navy that I was involved, I was on the staff of running in South Texas. They found it was a burrowing owl of some kind. Yep. And it was a very limited habitat area, and typically birds, not something you really want on your airport. We took a lot of measures to keep birds away out in South Texas. When you talk about birds, a
lot of people don't understand that you have to be mindful about when you're clear cutting trees because of that migration.
Absolutely.
It's just one never knows what's going on until you start asking a few questions and realize what you can't do.
So there's a lot of stuff going on, but I think this has been a good discussion, especially if you wanted to dig deeper into the inner workings of the government. I know there's probably a tiny chunk of people in the 9,000 people that are really getting into the weeds on this stuff, but hopefully some folks have learned some things, and if you take nothing away, we've got smart folks, we've got hardworking folks that are trying to get the job done and protect our community, not just Etowah County, but other surrounding counties that have displayed support for us, which is cool to see. I will bring up Jonathan McCormick. Says Etowah County can set an example for other communities. We have to be better neighbors. We are in this together. We are, my friend.
Happy birthday.
And we are, hopefully you're doing something better than working for your birthday. But so y'all go tell Jonathan happy birthday, or drop that in the comments. But guys, thanks for joining us. Last words, last thoughts?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I think everybody, just having you down there fighting that fight for us and And now I'm going to picture you as a lone wolf now that you've said that with your beard.
Sure.
So you're like Mayor Joe Taylor is the fox and you're the lone wolf now.
That's funny you should say that, because I have started a trend in the house, and all of a sudden these beards are popping up
There
all
we
over the
go.
place, because apparently it's the cool thing to do now.
Well, hopefully you're not too long. Hopefully all the members of the delegation will come in and do that. But thank you very much for coming tonight and for all that you do and that you're going to do.
Well, just like Mr. Gregerson says, always stick to the golden rule.
Yeah.
Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, and things generally turn out to be good.
Yeah.
That is true. All right, guys. Well, y'all have a good night. Head over to advancedetowah.com. We do have the sign up to jump in and get involved with our different action groups, and that as that comes to be and comes to fruition, excited to see that. We do have a donate button. Again, I don't like to really, I'm not trying to publicize that because we're not really asking for money, but we've had so many people say, I want to give and support. There is a donate button there on the website. So if you feel so obliged, there will be opportunity. I think some of the stuff we're talking about, there will be certainly opportunity that will need some help with funds, as a community to tackle. So more on that down the road, but y'all have a wonderful night. 9:15. Go get the kids in bed.
It's late.
And I'm going to go home and get ready for another day of work tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to
Thanks,
Christie
guys.
for being